Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
August 6, 2020, the Blacklisted Edition. And we begin with that story as a Zimbabwe businessman, whose name I won't even begin to try to pronounce, has had sanctions imposed on him for alleged corruption in assisting Zimbabwean government officials involved in public corruptions. The sanctions are on energy and his infrastructure company, Katunga Holdings, which comes as the U.S. ramps up pressure on the government of Zimbabwe, who has launched a violent crackdown on citizens protesting against the flawed election and delayed results. The Zimbabwean government has yet to hold anyone accountable for 6 civilians who were killed over 2 years ago, said Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, that noted international anti-corruption maven. So sanctions level against a Zimbabwean for his bribery and corruption. A step forward, even if the buffoon Mike Pompeo did it. Next up from the Washington Post, state attorney generals blast Facebook civil rights records, blaming social media for the rise in hate crimes and discrimination. Nearly 24 state attorneys generals demanded Facebook do more to stop the spread of disinformation, discrimination, and hate in an open letter. The latest volley in growing campaign targeting the company's civil rights record. Citing rise in hate crimes and online harassments, the attorney generals asked Facebook's chief executive to step up enforcement of the social media company's hate speech policies. They also asked the company to allow independent audits of hateful content on its site and of Facebook's measures to eliminate it. And finally, they called for the company to improve its responsiveness to victims of hate-filled attacks. Their requests add to a growing chorus of demands by civil rights advocates, advertisers, politicians, and others that the company improve its handling of some of the most charged and divisive issues involving free speech and harm to U.S. societies. Next up from the Wall Street Journal, Kodak continues to be in the news, and not for a good reason. Democratic-led congressional committees are seeking records from Kodak and the government, which announced a potential $765 million loan to the one-time photography giant in the latest sign of scrutiny of the company and as part of the U.S. plan to rebuild domestic pharmaceutical manufacturing. The committees are concerned about Kodak's lack of pharmaceutical experience, stock option grants made to executives and board members in the run-up to the announcement. Sounds like insider trading investigation. Although Kodak has experience manufacturing chemicals used in photography, it has not traditionally manufactured chemicals for use in pharmaceutical products. Kodak says it will fully cooperate with the inquiry. So the heat goes up a level on Kodak. And finally, in today's news, the heat is also on Donald Trump from a couple of sources. First, we note the Twitter world is literally abuzz with the announcement that the New York State Attorney General has released a press release announcing a major statement tomorrow on some matter of interest. We can only assume it's individual one, but also the Manhattan prosecutors who have sought President Trump's tax returns have also subpoenaed from his bank a wide variety of documents that Deutsche Bank has turned over, the financial records for Trump and his organization. A criminal investigation appears to be focused on hush money payments made by President Trump in 2016. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.